Hello, all you positive heads out there. It's so good to be back with all you beautiful reflections of the one source consciousness that creates and animates all things. If you're new to this podcast, of course, we are super happy to have you here, and we just ask that you bring an open mind and heart to your listening experience and to be prepared to explore vantage points that I'm convinced will help shift or solidify your current understanding of the ultimate nature of reality in a way that is extremely empowering. Speaking of exploring powerful perspectives, I'm super excited to announce the release of my very first book, The Golden Key: Modern Alchemy to Unlock Infinite Abundance. If you're ready to alchemize the circumstances in your life so that your abundance expands to an entirely new level in 2021, head over to goldenkey.gift to download the audio or ebook as my gift to you by using the code POSITIVEHEAD. All right, all you positive heads, welcome. Here we grow again. So grateful, blessed, and blessed to be here with each and every one of you. Today, I want to talk a little bit about, or a lot of bit about, and in between a bit about, thinking less, feeling more. Abraham said, once upon a time, apparently October 12th, 1997, according to this, be easy about this. Be playful about it. Don't work so hard at it. Let your dominant intent to be to feel good. And if you don't feel good, then let your dominant intent to feel relief. Feel your way through it. If you think your way through it, you can get off on all kinds of tangents. If you feel your way through it, you can come quickly to your core energy. And when you do that, only good can then flow to you. Of course, I love being playful about it. Love that idea. Not working so hard at it. And one of my favorite things she says here is, your dominant intent is to feel good. But if you can't do that, then feel relief. And we're going to talk about all the reasons why you should feel relief here in a moment. I'm going to go deeper down this rabbit hole, but before I do, I would like to take a moment to read a review on iTunes. You guys know I love my iTunes reviews. Not only do they help us to reach new people, but also fuel my fire to continue this labor of love. So if you haven't done so, would love it if you would take the time to give a little shout out there. This one came in by Lily Marie. Lily said, "Oh, the synchronicities. Whenever I feel myself getting out of alignment, I find myself drawn back to this podcast. And sometimes the universe just does it for me. To be honest, I hadn't listened in a while, but today I was driving to work during an icy rush hour, and I was getting frustrated. I had just finished an episode of a different podcast and turned on another when my phone decided nope and switched to yours. I burst out laughing thinking, okay, the universe must have different plans for me this morning. Then you start the episode by talking about remaining in alignment during crazy morning traffic. Can't help but laugh a bit louder. The episode continues on to discuss the power of numbers. I'd been seeing 1111 as of late, and then it stopped, and I'd been wondering why. I looked up and see mile marker 444, not the 222 you'd been seeing, but I took it as a sign I needed the podcast back in my life. Time to work on getting back in alignment. Thank you for spreading positivity and love. It is much appreciated." Oh, yeah, I love it. I have the powers that be are hijacking people's phones on my behalf. Yeah, well, I've got behind the scenes workers here helping to spread the show. You cannot stop listening, Lily Marie. It is forbidden. Oh, I love that review. Thank you for taking the time to complete the circle of love. And so happy to hear that you are working on that alignment. Isn't it beautiful when you get those winks, like having a morning traffic moment? And of course, I randomly talk about morning traffic, and it's just, it's really fun when you start to realize, or when something just wants to come through, I realize it's like, okay, I don't even know why I'm, being prompted to say this exact thing now, but it's just such a fun, co-creative way to explore the threads of connectivity that are going on here. And they're so, so exciting when, you start to understand it. And it really should bring the relief I'm talking about, right? When you understand, you fully get, you fully ground in the truth of the situation in which you find yourself. And that being, you're an eternal being that has always been and always will be, and change is guaranteed. You are that powerful. Anything that you're going through is just, this too shall pass, right? How many of us get so hung up on all the little details of what's happening and just excruciate over it? I know I do this a lot, where it's like I've got a project or something and it's maybe time sensitive, and then I can get tense about getting it done in time. And, so many times I've set these false get done by dates, expire by dates, and they're just meaningless. And I can look back now on, a lifetime of doing that sort of thing and say, yeah, that didn't matter. All that stress and strain was for nothing. Right. And so I'm slowly but surely starting to catch myself when I get into those states and just learn to find relief. And it'll happen when it should happen. Things will unfold when they should unfold. I don't need to work so hard at it. My dominant intent is to feel good. And, if I'm feeling anything other than that, I'm losing. And, that's the whole aim of the game, is to bring the presence, make the present, a gift, by tuning in to the truth of this. You're this untouchable being that, you're really learning what we're learning to do is to become the center of the storm, so to speak. A hurricane, it can be 200 miles per hour winds, and you get into the calm in the center of the storm. So there's all this craziness raging on the exterior, on the edges, but within there's this calm, super peaceful center. If you've ever been in the eye of a hurricane, growing up on the East Coast, I have. And it's eerily calm and peaceful. And yet all the stuff is swirling around it. And that's really what you're learning to be. This is what Source is, right? It is the unmoved mover. It is your higher self, the unmoved mover. It is there, just so at peace, it really probably somewhat like snickering at the trials and tribulations, these extensions of one group, and sort of watching as a patient parent watches their child, like, oh, well, they'll get it one day. They'll figure out how to stop falling down once they let go of the edge of the table. And one day they're going to be just cruising around here like no big deal. And that'll be amazing. But isn't it cute to watch them stumble at 1 year old from the couch to the table and kind of weeble and wobble? And that's what we've been doing a lot of. We've been weebling and wobbling a long time. And, just tuning into this idea of feeling relief and feeling good about the process. It is such a key component towards becoming that stable adult self that you're wanting to become. And the fact that you're tuning into this right now is a great testament to the fact that it's time for you to get your sea legs, right? I mean, we are doing it. You are doing it. And you should be so proud of how far you've come, that you're even aware that this is a perspective that exists. Like, wow, you're so ahead of the curve right now. So yet, looking back and comparing yourselves to others, what a pointless endeavor, right? Stop that nonsense. Look at where you are. Do you know what percentage of the population is even aware of this perspective that is so empowering? And it's so powerful because it's aligned with the ultimate truth of, the ultimate nature of reality of what's actually going on. And that's how powerful you are. That's what a raging success you are right now. Let your dominant intent be to feel good about this. Tap into your feelings. Get out of your head about what you need to do or not do so much. Part of the clip I'm going to share here in a minute, I'm actually going to share two. One is super short, like a minute. And it talks a little bit about life on the other side and this very topic of, thinking less, feeling more. And, what it talks about with life on the other side is really interesting. It's like, what's the difference between the you there and the you here? And the you there has put down all the worry, shame, resistance. All of that is completely left behind. That's the main difference. The main difference is whenever you've had a moment where you're fully connected, fully tuned in, fully tapped in, fully turned on, right? You're just lit up with excitement about who and what you are. That's how you feel all the time on the other side. So that's a glimpse of your ultimate perspective, the dominant perspective of your eternal existence, right? And that's a powerful thing to realize, right? That should make you do jumping jacks right now. Like the fact that is, 99.9% of your experience as a being is experiencing that. And any sort of cut-offness from that is only so you can appreciate that. Let's give you a little flavor of being cut off from it so you can appreciate it. Right. So any moment you've been out of alignment, that's all you've been doing is sort of paying that bill, if you will. And so, you have the choice in any moment to get right back into that flow, to get right back into feeling your way into that space. It's the only game in town. It's the only job that you need to do. You don't need to do anything other than to feel your way back into those states. And we've all had them at some point where you were just ecstatic about the potential and what's ahead of you and the future and the possibility and, how good it feels to have the new partnership or new job or new, potential of getting into college or whatever it is for you. You made the team, whatever it is. You've had those elated moments. Do you understand there's infinite of those moments ahead of you from this moment forward? And by tuning into the feeling of those moments now, you actually call them in quicker. You quit keeping them at bay. Your higher self, the moment you wanted any of those experiences, they're there in your vibrational escrow, waiting for you to get into alignment with them so that they can actually appear and manifest in your physical reality. There's so many lined up. You couldn't experience them all in an eternity, which is why you're doing it now. You're in eternity and you're still working it out. So that's how vast and powerful and beautiful you are. Time to really, really start living from that knowing, living from the truth of who and what you are. Let's take a listen to Abraham talking about this very thing with this particular clip I found called Life on the Other Side. I found it on Abe's Universe YouTube page. Right behind that, I'm going to share another minute clip of Bashar called Your Greater Being in Spirit, which I found on Bashar's YouTube page. Let's take a listen to these two, and I'll be back.
What I'm talking about is when I leave this body, what are the subtle differences?
Well, when you reemerge into non-physical, the biggest difference is you will leave behind everything that's on the less than satisfied side of the equation.
It's almost like it didn't exist.
It isn't that it didn't exist, it's that it doesn't now exist. When you focus upon it, it exists. When you don't focus upon it, it doesn't exist. But even though it doesn't exist now, doesn't mean that it didn't exist, just means that it doesn't exist. And when you reemerge into non-physical, all doubt and fear and worry and shame and all of those emotions that feel awful will not be part of the equation, because you leave all resistance behind when you reemerge into non-physical. But a more important conversation is that you don't have to croak in order for that to be your experience. You just have to lean satisfying.
Okay, well, this is what I was thinking in my meditation the other day. There was an experience I had at 5 years old that had touched me beyond belief. And it's silly. It's silly. It was a Bugs Bunny show on stage with Batman and Robin. And as a 5-year-old, I was blown away by this. The excitement, the colors, the songs. And it was that moment, I think, that I realized, oh my God, I want to entertain. This is going to be my life. But I constantly think about that moment, and I wonder, when we pass...
I want to entertain, or I want to feel like this. I want to entertain, or I want to feel like this. I want to entertain, or I want to feel like this, and I want others to feel like this because of what I'm doing. This is the way I'm supposed to feel. That's why you felt it so profoundly. That's what we were talking about earlier when we were asking, have you been able to isolate the feeling of satisfaction? You isolated the feeling of satisfaction and remembered it since you were 5 years old. That's what we're talking about. When you take those moments when you felt it so profoundly, and now you acknowledge what was that. That was you in complete and utter alignment with the source within you. There was no resistance. There was no difference. That's what death feels like. That experience that you're recalling is the answer to your first question. That's how it is supposed to feel, not just in what you call the death experience, but in what you call everyday life experience. That's how you're supposed to feel. Bright colors, wholeness, full, fun, love. That's the way it's supposed to feel.
And even here, we're supposed to feel that.
Especially here.
So do we keep expanding on the other side? Do we keep growing? Or do we bring ourselves to places like this to expand?
Yes.
So there is full expansion.
Since you are an extension of your source energy, your expansion is the expansion of your source energy. And this is the leading edge that sets it all in motion. You came forth, a part of you, the larger part of you remained non-physical. You mix it up and ask for more than you currently experience. At first you're a holdout, but then you find ways to come into alignment with it. You become vibrationally accurate or vibrationally same with your own inner being, and you allow what your inner being knows to flow into your experience, so the fullness of who you are is manifest here. You feel the cycle of that? Feel the circle of that? You ask, you don't allow. Your inner being heard you ask and does allow. Your inner being holds the frequency, which you then, if you care about the way you feel, can line up with. When you line up, you feel the fullness of that expansion. So every emotion that you feel is because your inner being is having an emotion. Your inner being is offering a vibration that you are either in full alignment with or in some resistance to, and the emotions that you feel let you know how you're doing. So if you want to know what it's like to be non-physical, just start hanging around in satisfying moments and allow that satisfaction, because law of attraction will cause it to increase, to go into that ecstasy and enlightenment and clarity and interest, which is the way your inner being feels all the time.
Can I ask you a personal question? Can we relive those moments on the other side? The moments that touched us here, whether it had been with your father or a place you went.
You can, but here's the thing.
Go ahead.
Can you imagine what it must be like for what you call source or God, what we are calling the collective consciousness of your inner beings? Can you imagine what it must be like to have a cadre of humans out here mixing it up and coming up with new intentions that they are coming into alignment with? Why would anyone look back? In fact, the difference between you and your inner being, humans and humans' inner beings, is that your inner beings don't look back.
So we just want to look straight ahead.
Always looking, always with that satisfying eye toward the becoming of what has already been acknowledged as desired. Satisfaction comes from only one place: moving in the direction of that which you've already vibrationally become.
So there'd be no purpose to relive things when we're on the other side? That's my human thought thinking that.
Well, you might want to. Let's say you're feeling sorry for yourself.
On the other side?
Oh, no, never there.
Oh, okay.
But let's say here in your human form that you're feeling sorry for yourself. And so you're reaching for some memories that give you a little relief, and you're looking back to find them. Well, that's sort of, as you said, a sort of human tendency. But your inner being isn't looking back to find relief. Your inner being is looking into what you've already created and knowing it and holding the vibration of it, knowing that you can find vibrational alignment with it. And when you do, then you feel the satisfaction coursing through your experience. That's why we're asking you all, did you hear us? Esther sat for the better part of an afternoon the other day with a notebook. She thinks clearly when she writes, as she is focusing. And she was identifying satisfying moments. What feels like a satisfying moment to me? Now, you might say some of it was memory, but it certainly was a projection forward as well. So she thought about what new experiences feel like. She thought about what being in a new environment feels like. And she did. She thought about hooking the car up to the bus and being in a campground and getting all the hoses and ropes and everything all pulled in, and the rooms were all pulled in, and everything in the cabinets was stashed for movement down the highway, and then that feeling of pulling out onto the open road. And she feels euphoric when she focuses there, that feeling of newness about the day. So at the same time she was looking back at something that they did for many, many years, she was trying to isolate that feeling of a new day and new adventure and new possibilities and new. The unknown was out there, just a knowing that it will be good and ready to be surprised and delighted by it. That's a really satisfying state of being, you see. So once you start identifying those feelings, and once you identify it and then isolate it and then practice it and then milk it, then you are more likely, because law of attraction is your friend, to bring you more things like that. And since satisfaction is the name of the game, and why is it? Why is satisfaction the name of the deliberate creation game? Because there's no resistance when you're satisfied. And when there's no resistance, what does that mean in terms of momentum? It must increase. So where does satisfaction go if momentum is going to cause it to be more? To more and more and greater satisfaction. And so what are satisfying moments? Clarity and love and knowledge and wisdom and connection and alignment. You see what we're getting at? So when you start there, it's like the cork under the water. You can hold it under the water, but when you let go of it, it's going to bob back to the surface. That's the way that law of attraction handles everything. When you let go, when there's no resistance, what you want just becomes more and more and more and more and more. And that's what it feels like to be non-physical.
So just constantly look straight ahead. Plant my seed straight ahead. I can look back to feel. I could look back to recognize, but constantly keep planting my seeds straight ahead. And
don't try too hard to figure it out.
Right.
Don't try to control yourself. Let your control be just the slight control of caring how you feel, and let everything else take care of itself. Let us just say this to you. Goal setting that used to seem important, and deliberate intending, which seems important, and deciding what you want, which seems important, all of that stuff takes place naturally when you are in a step one moment. So you can't help but set goals and ask us for stuff you want. Life is just constantly generating that from you. And so it's not something that you have to work at. We're suggesting that what you might want to work at is isolating the feeling of satisfaction and making sure that you're holding yourself there on a more regular basis. Because when at the center of your being you've opened the door, it's like all the stuff's piled up outside your door, and you're crowing about how much great stuff you've piled up out there. But unless you open the door, it doesn't really make any difference how much great stuff's piled up out there. You got to find some way of opening that door so that it can flow into your experience, you see.
May I share this experience then? Because it's exactly what you're talking about. My whole life it was, I want to be a songwriter. I'm going to be a songwriter. I'm going to be a songwriter. It invaded my world, and it actually got pretty bad because I did overthink about it too much. I've let it go, and life has brought me so many wonderful things, and now I find myself acting. I never thought I'd be doing it, but I'm getting work, I'm happier, and I'm entertaining, which I love to do. Yeah. You know? So the moment I stopped being a songwriter, John Lennon and Paul McCartney. How's John Lennon doing, by the way? Good? Yeah?
He's dead.
Good. As soon as I let that go, the universe started saying, this is what we have for you. And I've never been happier. I have a new fiance. It was because of you. I came out of my...
It's clear to us that you've got it going on. It's clear to us that you have control of what you're doing. We're fine-tuning with you here. And our encouragement to you is think a little less, feel a little more, and then consciously acknowledge the correlation between feelings of satisfaction and increasing of momentum and results that come from that. Yes. Watch what happens.
I believe you.
Really good.
Thank you.
Really good.
Love you.
Really good.
Even that's only a small part of the greater being that you are. You see, this is one of the reasons why people on your planet always wonder, well, when someone dies, why don't they always come back? Or why does it take so long for them to get in touch with me or send me a message? You have to understand that when they wake up, it's like waking up from a dream, and they don't necessarily miss you that much because you're already there. Most of you is there. It doesn't mean it invalidates the physical portion of your consciousness that you're experiencing right now, but from the perspective of spirit, that would be like someone saying, well, I know you're here, but right now I'm going to go and I'm going to make a connection with your little finger because your little finger misses me. And that's okay. That can be done. But that's about the size of it compared to the being you are in spirit. Do you understand?
Yes.
Like I said, doubt, worry, shame, these are left behind with all resistance. Stop resisting any of it. Just allow it. You don't have to die. You don't have to croak, as she says, to experience that. Lean into finding a way to be satisfied, to finding relief. I love, this guy's talking about being a songwriter. And if you noticed, she said, you want to entertain, or more importantly, you want to feel like this. What is the underlying feeling that this guy wanted to experience as a songwriter, right? What's the core? What's the baseline? So tune into that feeling, and maybe it shows up as an actor in his case, right? Or some other reason, or path. So you don't have to be too tied to the exact how it unfolds, just the feeling of what it will be like to have that particular thing. A lot of times what it is that you're taking a step towards is really just a stepping stone to something that's even more in alignment with bringing the fullness of that feeling you seek into your reality. I love, this little, he's 5 years old during this Bugs Bunny Batman mashup. That's what death feels like, that ecstatic state. We've all seen that small child who's just ecstatic about something. That's the beauty of the pureness, the innocence of your soul. That's what you're seeking in any moment to be that. That is the goal. That's the end game. That's the goal. And you can find your way to it through consciously navigating and sifting through perspectives that, leaving out ones that don't serve you, that cut you off, that foster resistance, and tuning into those that, have that childlike wonder. And, I love how she talks about inner beings, your inner being, higher selves. It's always looking forward, looking back. Yeah, you can look back as sort of a reference, but you're not going that way. And there's so much ahead. Imagine if you have so much goodness ahead, and you're let's say you're going to an incredible 5-star restaurant with the best food on planet Earth, and you're looking back at the granola bar you had earlier and just fixating on that. There's so many magical feasts ahead of you. Don't get caught up. Yeah, it was probably a good granola bar. I get it, but let's not get hung up. I've done a lot of that as a nostalgic being, looking back on things, and it's easy to do, right? When you have a big heart and you care a lot and deeply about people and experiences, it's easy to get nostalgic, but don't get caught in that loop, because it keeps you from manifesting all the next level goodness that's right in front of you. Like she said, ID what feels like a satisfying moment, and then practice it. Just care how you feel. Focus on how you feel, and don't try to control too much. Think a little less, feel a little more. Consciously acknowledge the correlation of feelings of satisfaction and increasing of momentum and the results that come. That's it. That's the path. I love how Bashar in that very short clip is so powerful to say, we think about this. My mom often talks about this, how come my mother, my grandmother who's passed, how come she doesn't come to me? And it's it's a great perspective, right? When it's like them visiting your little finger, because most of you is already there. And when you understand time is an illusion, this is you dipping your little finger into physical reality. The grander aspects, parts of you are there already. So isn't that beautiful to think about when someone, maybe your parents or grandparents or someone that you anticipate, that if natural causes, sort of unfold, that they would pass before you, right? Isn't it wonderful to know that you'd be there waiting for them to greet them? And they get there, truly it's those left behind that are the ones that sort of suffer the most, right? So if you can understand this perspective, it's like a friend I was talking to, new friend I was talking to this last weekend, and he had a really powerful, psychedelic experience years ago, and he was sharing it with me, and he's like, what I was shown is how little death is. We've made it this big, big, big deal. And he's like, I had the death experience, and it was this again. It was less than nothing. It was so inconsequential, from the grander scheme of things, and such a common part of existence, an ebb and flow like breathing, that it was just it was almost forgettable. It was so unimportant. And yet we've put so much weight and stock on it here. Doesn't that help release resistance, to take on that perspective, to feel relaxed about the ride, to become the laughing Buddha that you're meant to become, laughing at all the pain and suffering that you signed up for by, signing on to a perspective that just doesn't serve you, by being ignorant, which is okay. It's beautiful because it serves you ultimately in the end. turns you into the laughing Buddha. It's a giant joke, and you are so blessed. It's like, wow, it's so much better than you could have imagined, right? Well, this has been such a wonderful, wonderful journey yet again, floating in eternity, connecting with each and every one of you, my soul family, extensions of self. You're such beautiful reflections. Thank you for showing up. I have a song for you. This one's called The Miracle Maker. It's by Mirage of Deep. Hope you enjoy. Till next time, journey well. Also, before we cue up today's song, as a quick reminder, don't forget to download the Golden Key audio or ebook as my free gift to you at goldenkey.gift using the Golden Key code POSITIVEHEAD. And please, if you enjoy my gift, leave a positive review on Amazon so others can unlock their lives with the help of the Golden Key as well.